Hello, and welcome back to Diecast Graveyard. My name is Paul. Today we're going to restore a Hot Wheels Sidekick. This car was produced only in Hong Kong in 1972, as identified by the light blue windshield that comes with the car. By pulling the exhaust pipe in the back, the side panel kicks out so the driver can get inside the vehicle. It's actually a pretty cool concept vehicle. I don't believe they ever made a real one, but the visibility in this car would definitely be a problem. It's kind of cool. It's one of those weird fantasy cars, but it is a Hot Wheels, so it definitely belongs in the collection. This car is missing some paint. The driver's door is a little bit stiff to open up, and the wheels definitely need to be replaced. Well, let's just go ahead and get started on this. Here I've got the car, I've drilled out the posts, and we're going to take it apart. It's got a very easy mechanism that works the driver's side door. The window is going to have to be drilled out, and the engine's going to have to be drilled out also. Now the window, when we put that in, we're going to have to glue it back in, and the engine, there's really not enough on the post to put a screw in, so we're going to have to glue that back in also. Here's where the driver's door goes in. The suspension for this car is not in too bad a shape. The wheels definitely have to be replaced, like I said. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to buff out that bottom portion of the base to make it look really nice. Like I said, we're going to have to drill out the post to take the engine out, and we're going to buff that up to a nice brilliant shine. Let's go ahead and get the body inside the paint stripper. This should be pretty easy coming apart. As far as stripping the paint out, just make sure you get everything coated inside and outside. Here using the citrus strip, and like I've said numerous times, the citrus strip is not the best on the market, but it does work good. It's reasonably priced, and you can use it more than once, which is why I keep it in a bowl. Now we're going to go ahead and put the base inside a mixture of lime away and water. Now, depending on how strong you mix this, I mix it at a 50-50 mixture, and then I let the body or any of these metal parts that need to have the tarnish removed only for about 3 to 4 minutes. If you leave it longer than that, it can chemically stain the metal on your car, so you got to be careful of this. Once it sits for about 3 to 4 minutes, then you're going to get in there with a wire brush, and you're going to scrub it down. I prefer a brass brush because if you use a steel one, you're liable to scratch the base or the parts of the car, and you don't want to do that.
Meanwhile, back in the graveyard.
We've let it sit for about 3 or 4 minutes. Now we're going to go ahead and scrub it down. Here I've got my brass brush. We're going to scrub out the parts that are definitely exposed that you can see. The tarnish just falls away at this point. Now with this mixture of lime away and water, again a 50-50 mixture, you can use this several times before you have to replace it. Make sure you wear your protective glove, and I highly recommend that when you're using this stuff you wear your safety glasses, because if you get this stuff in your eyes, guys, it is going to burn and it's going to hurt like hell, and you definitely don't want to do that. So please make sure you wear your protective gear when you're doing this. I leave the plastic tires on to protect the hubs so I don't accidentally rip the hubs off or damage them. And the lime away mixture doesn't hurt the plastic, so that's another good thing. Now, since I'm going to go ahead and remove these tires anyways, it doesn't matter if I leave them on. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that little bell to be alerted to any future videos. We got a little bit more scrubbing here to do, so we keep rinsing it off, checking it out. But we're going to buff it down anyways to make it look that much better. Now let's make sure we get the tarnish off the engine. This is going to look nice when it's polished up. That's looking real good. Let's move on. Here I've got the windshield out. It's just that little tiny panel there. Taking very, very fine sandpaper. This is about 1200 grit. and I'm just going to polish this down just to get the light scratches off there. And then when that's done being sanded down, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use a little bit of plastic polish, and we're going to polish it up and make it look good. Now I'm thinking that the way it's looking here, if the plastic polish works good, we're not going to have to dip it in the gauzy. That's actually looking pretty good. Let's hit it with the plastic polish and see how it turns out. Here I got a little bit of plastic polish on an old t-shirt, and I'm just going to dip that windshield in there and just start rubbing it back and forth on that t-shirt. I don't like to use paper towels here because it tends to leave fuzz on it. And then I'll just rub it back and forth. That's already starting to look good. We'll just polish it up a little bit more and get it to look really nice. You may have to apply more than one coat of this plastic polish to get it to where you want it to be. All right, well, that's about it, I think. That's actually pretty good. We'll just wipe it down, and I think we're going to do it. We're going to use it that way. Here I've got the base. I'm using this Blue Magic Metal Polish Cream. I've got it slathered all over the bottom, and we're going to take my Dremel and a buffing wheel, and we're going to buff it on down and see how it looks. I love these portable Dremels. My mother-in-law got me one for Christmas. And this is a refurbished one, so you definitely save money on the refurbished ones. And I got this one, or actually she got this one off of Amazon. So check it out. If you can get a refurbished one from the factory, guys, they're just as good and the warranty is just as good. So go ahead and use that or get that, and that will definitely save you money when it comes to getting equipment on Amazon. And there's a lot of refurbished equipment from the factory that you can pick up that you might be able to use in your hobby. Even when it comes to drills or anything like that. Just keep going over the areas you want polished until it gets to the shine you want. You may have to put a little bit more cream on there to get it the way you want to, but that's fine. And we'll buff up the engine, and we'll buff up the driver's door, and get this looking real super nice. This is looking really nice. Now we just got to wipe it down with a cloth. Let's move on. Here we got the base all polished. Now it's time to replace the wheels. I've got 2 large cap tires and I've got 2 medium cap tires. Now the cap type style wheels, they only come in larges and mediums. Stick your razor blade along the edge, work it free, and then pop it off with your razor blade. Find the edge with your knife, roll it back and forth, push down, and give it a twist. They should come off super easy. They snap right in place and they look good. Sometimes if the cap wheels are loose, you may have to use a little bit of modeling glue to get your wheels to stay on there a little bit, especially if they're well worn. Those are going on pretty good. Now on the back wheels, I had to put a little drop of the modeling glue to keep the wheels on there. But that's not a big deal. I mean, these cars are almost 50 years old in this case, so parts wear out, and some things you can get and some things you can't. Okay, we got the body part out of the paint stripper. We polished it up and made it look really nice. We're going to do a color change on this car. Instead of the yellow, we're going to paint it a lime green, or also known as an apple green. Now I got this paint from the Redline shop, and I'll tell you, this green paint is absolutely beautiful. It goes on very nice, and if you follow the manufacturer's recommendations for mixing the paint, this paint will turn out absolutely beautiful. The mixture on the paint is 5 to 1. 5 drops of paint to 1 drop of the hardener. Now, once you figure out exactly how much paint and hardener ratio you need, you can figure it out to where you're using the little pipettes to take the paint and get an exact amount, put that in your little mixing cup, and then get your hardener. You've already figured out how many, let's hypothetically say 100 drops is. Then you can get your hardener in there too. And that's what I do. I know how much paint I need to use in a pipette. I also know how much hardener I need to use in a pipette. So I just go to that ratio every single time, and the paint always turns out perfect. We've already done the tack coats and everything. Now we're putting down the heavier saturation coats. Now, fortunately, the surface on this car is not too big, so you didn't have to mix up a lot of paint. But man, that lime green looks really nice. Wow, does that shine. Now, of course, the key to getting a really super finish is the body prep. Make sure you also rub it down and scrub it down with a degreaser, just in case you got your oily fingers all over it. Now we're going to paint the louvers in the back. Here I'm using the paint, the vinyl paint from the Redline shop, and I'm putting down a very, very light coat. This also fills in the edges of your tape that you've put on there to make sure that you don't get any bleed underneath the tape. Just put on a very light coat and spray it straight on. You don't want to spray at an angle because you don't want it to penetrate that edge that you put down with the tape. Now that I've got a coat built up on the edges of the tape, now I'm going to put down a little bit heavier coat. This paint you can use right out of the bottle. You don't have to mix any hardener or anything with it. Now that's the best part about that is if you're only using a little bit of paint for this anyways, only a few drops. If you happen to have a little bit of extra, then go ahead and pour it right back in the bottle. As soon as you're done painting and it's tacked up slightly, go ahead and remove all the tape from the area that you've protected. If you let the tape or the paint dry, it adheres to the tape, and if you go to remove it after it's dried, it's liable to stick to the tape and then rip the paint off the surface that you just painted. This is why you want to remove it when it's, I don't want to say wet, but slightly tacky. That way there, it will give way and you'll have a nice clean surface of the area that you taped off. Look how nice and clean this is looking. That's sweet. I'm real happy with that. That's looking good. Now we've got all the parts. I've glued the engine back in. I've glued the windshield back in because again, there wasn't enough there to screw them back in. The wheels have been replaced. The base has been polished up. That looks good. The driver's side pod has been buffed out and cleaned. And all the parts have been rubbed down and cleaned. All we need to do now is put it together and do our reveal. And this is what we started with. An old 1972 Sidekick. It's in pretty good shape for its age, I'll tell you. But there's a lot of paint missing on here. And the windshield's scratched up, the wheels are definitely worn out, and it just needs a good overhaul to make it look good as if the day it came from the factory. And this is the final result. That beautiful lime green or apple green paint is it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. The base is super nice. We've got that all polished up. The engine's all polished up. The windshield looks fantastic, and we got brand new shoes all the way around. Man, this car turned out really nice. Now, I know it's one of the fantasy cars, and a lot of people don't like them, but it is a Hot Wheel, and it just deserves its just due and respect. Here's the car with the side panel all pulled out. Like I said, you just pull the exhaust pipes from the rear and you pull that and that panel will pop out. It's actually a pretty cool concept car. Now this thing came in roughly, I don't know, 7 or 8 colors. I've got them in the book. I just didn't look them up that close. But it's still a pretty nice car, and now it's going to be in my collection. Or, hey, who knows, someone else's collection. Now, I do have a Patreon page. If you want to become a member of the Diecast Graveyard team, I'll leave a link in the comments section. Now, Patreon page is a subscription to me. You'll get to see videos or pictures of projects that I'm working on that the public won't get to see. If you join my Patreon page, these are the things that you get by joining the page. Now, the subscription fee goes to me, and I use that to buy my supplies to keep this channel going. I would be honored if you would join the Patreon team. Plus, I also do a monthly drawing for the members of the page. I want to thank you so much for joining me here today on Diecast Graveyard. I had a good time restoring this sidekick, and I've got a bunch more videos coming out in the near future. Love to hear from you in the comments section. This is Paul from Diecast Graveyard. Have a great day.